Yes, so those were the 8 questions that uh, Arjun asked. Krishna answers 7 of them in verse 3 and 4. And the remaining chapter is answering the 8th question, that how can those engaged in devotional service know you at the time of death? So that's where we will begin the chapter. So that was the 4th verse where Krishna answers all the things. So now we come to the most important verses of this chapter, and probably one of the most important verses of Bhagavad Gita, right? Where Krishna explains, Antkale cha mam eva smaran muktva kalevram yaha prayati samadbhavam yati nasti atra samshaya. So, and whoever at the end of his life quits his body, remembering me alone, at once attains my nature. Of this there is no doubt. So Krishna, he always stresses on, when he wants to stress something, he says, don't doubt it. Because doubt could be a killer of our bhakti also. Doubt is good to have, but then can also be a killer of our bhakti. We might just keep doubting the whole time. Ah, no, this doesn't look true. This doesn't look correct. Oh, I don't know. I've never seen Krishna. Has anybody seen Krishna? All those kind of questions we keep doubting. So that's why Krishna has to again and again repeat himself. Don't doubt. Don't doubt. Have faith on me. That's all Krishna is asking for. So now Krishna is revealing what exactly are we supposed to do at the time of death, right? So if we constantly think of Krishna, then at the time of death, we get our spiritual nature back, right? And we have seen this even in this material world. Uh, we get bodily and mental features similar to people whom we meditate upon, right? So, for example, as devotees, we don't appreciate impersonalists a lot. And where do we get that from? From Srila Prabhupada, right? So, I'm not sure if you've read, but recently there was a case. There was this lady. Her name is Elizabeth Holmes. A few years ago, she was touted as the Steve Jobs of the female Steve Jobs. Her company was evaluated at $9 billion. They were investors like Rupert Murdoch and so forth. But all she was doing was cheating. She was just cheating people. So, but that's not relevant. But she's in news. If you just Google her up, she just went to jail. Sorry, I didn't hear that. What was it? Somebody was saying something? No. Okay. So yes, Elizabeth Holmes, she just went to jail. But the reason I brought that up because she was thinking so much about Steve Jobs and she wanted to be like Steve Jobs, she started dressing as Steve Jobs. She used to wear a black turtleneck like Steve Jobs used to wear the whole time. And she would try to make her voice heavier, so that she would sound more like, a more mannish kind of a voice. So that's what I'm saying. When you meditate a lot on somebody, then you start becoming like that. So similarly, Krishna is telling us that when you meditate upon me, and throughout your life you've been practicing, at the time of death, you come back to me. Right? So we get a similar body like Krishna, if you behold the beautiful feature of Krishna. So Krishna is saying, Mam eva. See, only on me. Right? So it's Mam eva. So the word eva means eva, certainly. Okay. So Mam eva, just certainly on me. Then what happens is, then you attain at once attain my nature. So that's what Krishna is saying, that we get a body similar to Krishna. What's Krishna's body? It's transcendental. It's not material. Right? He's very specific. Only on me. Mukta kalevara. Give up your body. So there's no doubt about it. And in our movement, we have had a good number of successful deaths. Successful deaths in the mean that people were actually able to transcend this material world, right? When devotees have gone back to the spiritual world. And how do we know? Obviously, we don't know what happens after the devotee left his body, but we can know by the response of the devotee gives when the death approaches. There are many such instances when Prabhupada disciples leave. There was one such story that I have read, and where the devotee was in a coma for a long time. But just before he was about to leave his body, he just stood up and he called out Prabhupada's name. So, so Prabhupada had come to take him back, as Prabhupada had promised everybody that I'll take everybody. I have a key to the back door of Goloka. So that's one thing. So this is not a material phenomenon. There's that person was actually in a spiritual consciousness when he left his body. And Prabhupada himself, how he departed in Vrindavan, Kartik month, amidst devotees chanting. This is how we all should aspire for. Right? We should always say a prayer, Krishna, if you may so desire, at the time of my death, please let there be a spiritually charged atmosphere, and may my consciousness be on you. This is the art of dying. When they have the art of living, we have an art of dying. And we have got some very good books. His Holiness Giriraj Swami Maharaj has written it's a wonderful book, The Last Exam. We should read that book. He talks about one of his disciples. There was a Mataji who was leaving her body, and so there are many other stories that Maharaj gives. We should read that. It's a very good book. But this art of dying cannot be mastered without a lifelong practice. It cannot happen suddenly. That's something that Krishna is stressing, Prabhupada has stressed to us throughout, and how that he wants us to practice as early as we can get into it. Right? So we can talk a lot of philosophy. There's so much philosophy, but then confidence is developed in devotional service from one's own experience or realization. Personal realization is the ultimate evidence we can get. You can corroborate with the scriptures, but you have to see it for yourself, right? You have to go back to the basics, do good japa, read Bhagavad Gita, revisit the state that brought you to the Krishna consciousness. So these experiences, these realizations are the ones that are going to build our confidence to continue on this path of bhakti. Unfortunately, in today's world, death is a taboo. Nobody wants to talk about it. Some sections do. There's a lot of discussion about death in palliative care, right? End of life care that people have. And people are interested in talking about it. I gave a talk at a hospice care last year, and they were just at the edge of their seats. They want to understand what is the thought process of people, people from India. They called us Hindus, but then, so we are Sanatan Dharmi, but Hindus, what is their thought of death? I was explaining to them about death, right? So we have to be open and meditate upon it if we really want to grow. Just like we have to sit down and meditate. When in our day-to-day life, when we manage anything, we begin with the end in mind. So why not do it with our life? Why not do it with this life that we are living? We know life has a beginning and an end. If we try to avoid that, if we pretend otherwise, then that's kind of the ostrich philosophy, right? Bury one's head in the sand and just forget about it. Better to be fully cognizant and prepare for death. Right? There's a very good conversation in Mahabharata between Yudhishthir and one of the, what was that? It was a stork, I think. Yeah, I think it was a stork. So the five brothers, they were really very thirsty. So Yudhishthir sends one of them to go and collect water. There was a lake nearby. So when I think it was the first one, I think Bhima, and the stork says, "Don't drink the water from here; it's poisoned." But then they were really thirsty; they didn't pay attention to it, and all four of them, the four brothers except Yudhishthir, all the other four they kind of fell asleep, or they went into a coma or some sort. And then when Yudhishthir went, the stork again said to him also, "Don't drink the water; it's poisoned." But so he listened to him. Yudhishthir abided by the warning. And then the stork said, "You first answer my question, then you can drink." And then one of the questions that the stork asked him was, what's the most amazing thing in this world? That was a question. And Yudhishthir says ahani ahani bhutani gachanti yamalyam. That ahani ahani bhutani. Everybody, bhutani, living entities, gachanti yamalyam. They're leaving their body, they're going to Yamlok, right? Sthavaram, Shesha Sthavaram Icchanti. The remaining thing that we are going to be here forever. Kim Ashcharya Athaparam. What is more astonishing and amazing than this? And everybody's leaving their bodies, but other things, no, we'll stay here forever. That comes in the Mahabharata, in that episode when they go to the forest. It's one parva, one parva. So yeah, so that means death comes to everybody, right? So everyone's still walking around thinking that it won't come to me. And this is due to the attitude that we have, clinging to life. And this clinging to life causes all the suffering that we are going through. Everybody has this fear of death, right? But then devotees, that's a big difference. As I was talking about, the confidence in bhakti comes through realizations and through experiences. And when that happens, devotees become fearless. They don't fear death anymore, right? So, because as Bhagavad Gita says, Krishna tells him, Dehi nosmin yatha dehe komaram yovanam jara tatha dehantara prapti dhira satara namuyate. And we just changing clothes. We become aware of it. Right? So that's the whole concept of death, which we should be open to talking about. And that's what Krishna is saying, that you remember me at the time of your death. But then how can I remember him? Krishna is he'll talk about it further on as we move on to this verse. This chapter, sorry. So that's the 5th verse that Krishna is talking about. Okay, Prabhupada is highlighting here that the word smaran, the word is smaran muktva kalevram, smaran. So smaran means, Prabhupada is translated as remembrance, remembering, right? So, people, I've had people question me that in a joking or in a sarcastic sense that, oh, if I remember Krishna at the last moment, then I'll go back to him. Then, okay, then I'll do whatever I want to throughout my life. At the last moment, I'll put a gun on my head, chant Hare Krishna, and I'll leave this body. They might get some benefit out of that, but they're not for sure going to go back home, because it's about remembrance, not utterance. Even if we utter Krishna's name, but my consciousness is still polluted and there's so much going on in my heart, I will not attain my ultimate destination. The word smaran is very important here. So remembrance is important, not utterance. Right? So that's one important thing to understand. Then another thing Prabhupada highlights, there may be so many impediments for a person who is chanting Hare Krishna. Nonetheless, tolerating all these impediments, one should continue to chant. Right? This is a principle throughout scriptures you will find. We cannot change the world, but we can surely change ourselves. I think Rumi was the poet, at least it's attributed to Rumi. I'm not sure if it's true or not, but Rumi, you see, was a Sufi saint, and he said that, when I was intelligent, I was trying to change the world, but when I'm wise, I'm trying to change myself. So we cannot change the world. Tolerant, we just have to learn to tolerate the impediments that come our way. And Prabhupada is saying that you continue to chant. So that's a wonderful. And this chapter, you will notice, at least for the first few verses, Prabhupada will keep on repeating the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. He'll keep on stressing on chanting again and again. Every verse you can point out, you can actually count that Prabhupada will at least talk 7 or 8 times about chanting, about the Hare Krishna mantra again and again, just because it's so important for us to focus on Krishna when we are leaving this body. And okay, so let's go to the 6th verse. Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tyajanti ante kalevram tam tam evati konteya sada tad bhava bhavita. Whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, O son of Kunti, the state he will attain without fail. Yes. So the earlier verse said that when you remember Krishna alone, and then you will attain his nature. But then Krishna is expanding it. Okay, you don't want to think about me. Whatever you will be remembering, you will become in your next life. And that Krishna is saying without fail. And the important phrase here is bhava bhavita. Bhava bhavita means state of being, remembering. Again, the concept of smarana is here. Right? It's not as if that, I'm leaving my body and I see some of my family members and I just utter their name. But no, that doesn't make a difference. What is my consciousness? What is going on down deep in my heart? And Prabhupada exemplified it. That's why he's an acharya. While living, he exemplified the scriptures for us by walking his talk. And while he was dying, he exemplified it for us. Even when he was quitting his body, he was translating Bhagavatam. You can read it. The 10th canto, 14th chapter was the last chapter Prabhupada translated into, and you can read those purports. They're as perfect as the ones that were written probably years ago. So his mental state was very clear. He was very clear about what he was doing and thinking. So there was no effect of Maya on him when he was leaving his body. He was not worried about his body, being in pain. He was not thinking about his family members. No, all he was thinking was about Krishna. So that's a very important point to remember. Bhava bhavita. It has to be a remembrance. That's important here. So Krishna is giving the law of last thought here, right? Because there might be people who say, "Oh, I don't understand this. How does this work?" So Krishna says, "Okay, let me explain it further." So it's very the bhava bhavita is a very important phrase here. So bhava bhavita, as I said, means you have to be surcharged with Krishna's thought, with Krishna consciousness. It's not artificial, right? Krishna says in the 10th chapter, he'll say, Dyutam Chalyatam Asmi, that I'm the best of the cheaters. So we cannot cheat him, right? At the last moment of our life, we are shown a movie of our entire life will just flash in front of our eyes. It'll be a fast forward movie and we'll see everything what we have been doing our lives, right? But if we have been investing sincerely, that's important, sincerely in bhakti, irrespective of whatever the outcome may be, Krishna will come and pull us out. Right? Sometimes devotees, they practice for their entire lives, 40, 50, 60 years. But you see that it doesn't make, you don't see any change in them. And sometimes I also get frustrated. Everybody gets frustrated that, I've been doing it for so many years. Why am I not seeing a change in my life? Krishna sometimes doesn't give changes or doesn't give the results of your bhakti in the lifetime, but he accumulates everything and gives you in the last moment. Okay, I'll take a pause. Yes, Shalini Mataji, please go ahead.
Prabhuji, you said right. It is not about remembrance, but it is not about utterance, but remembrance, right, Krishna? So I was just remembering Ajamil, right? The second chance.
Mm-hmm.
He was uttering. He was not remembering Narayana. He was just uttering the name of his son, and he got second chance. So how do we explain that?
Here we are talking about attaining Krishna's nature. He did not attain Krishna's nature. He just got his body back and he lived for another 11 years and then he went back home. So that instance that Bhagavatam explains was not when he went back home, back to Godhead. It's just what happened. He chanted his son's name and then the Yamduta Vishnudas came and then they gave him his life back.
Okay.
Did I make myself clear, Madhi?
Yes.
So this particular concept that we are discussing right now is going back home, back to Godhead.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing about him, about Ajamil, was its remembrance. Okay. When he chanted Narayan's name, it's given in our Shastras, even though he started with the thought that I'm calling out my son, but by Krishna's mercy, he realized all the good things he had done when he was young, before he fell for the prostitute. All that came back to him. So that word Narayan, when he chanted, it initially was with the thought of calling his son, but towards the end, when he chanted that name, it was a very deep and a very precipitated desire and a call to Krishna. So it's not just that he was calling his son. He realized his past life. And that's another thing for us to give us hope that whatever little bhakti we do, Krishna never forgets it. He never ever forgets it. It goes in your permanent record for whether you're going to live in this creation for the next million births or just this birth. Krishna will never forget it. That's another beauty of this whole. It's all cumulative. It's all cumulative. It's not like, oh, I chanted and then, oh, I forgot to chant for another week. It's okay. It's good to chant regularly, but then that doesn't mean you lost the gain of those early chanting. It's always there in your bank account. So it's a very positive and a hopeful scenario that Krishna is giving us here.
Thank you so much, Prabhu.
You're welcome. But as I said, the most important aspect is sincerity. Okay, and I've been talking about it, or we've been discussing it again and again. Sincerity is our only eternal asset, right? When we are able to find that sincerity and then say, uh, Krishna, I'm going to point my attention to you in love. Okay, then we get intimately connected with Krishna. And recently, I heard that we were at the Rath Yatra, so I met my Guru Maharaj, and then he was saying that he was talking to a group of devotees, and he said that each and every single person has a personal and an individual relationship with Krishna. And when we are able to realize this fact, then our faith on Krishna becomes intensely deep. Can you just imagine? I have a very personal relationship with Krishna, which nobody in this creation has. It's just with me. So I'm very, very special, in one way. So Krishna has a very, so with these thoughts, we with these thoughts, sincerity comes into my heart, right? And Krishna says that, if you are sincere, then I'll help you from within the heart. He says that in the 10th chapter, 10th verse. Tesham sarada yuktanam bhajata priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mamupayanti te. Right? So, and sincerity it's not nothing fancy. Sincerity means that you just just asking Krishna, I can't remove these anarthas from my heart. I'm surrendering to you. You fix it for me. That's also sincerity, right? Our sincerity is shown by our consistency, right? Because I'm doing everything again and again, again and again. Sincerity, nobody can fake sincerity. Nobody can fake steadiness. So if we go on hearing and chanting and keep a sincere heart, Krishna is behind everything for us that's happening, right? And he also gives us that intelligence, as I quoted the 10.10 verse, right? Krishna gives us intelligence when he sees our sincerity. But that sincerity part, I just wanted to stress on that. Sincerity part is important. So that was the concept that Krishna is establishing here in the 5th and 6th verse. So they're very important verses, one of the most important verses of Bhagavad Gita. And now that I think about, I don't know if how many of you have heard the story of there was a Prabhupada disciple, what is the name? Raghava Pandit and Ratnavali Devi Dasi. How many of you have heard that story? It's an actual question. You'll have to answer it. You can raise your hand or whatever, but how many of you have heard it? Nobody has heard it?
Prabhuji, is the Ratnavali Devi Dashi the one that was in Africa who fought with the
No.
with that?
No. Ratnavali
Okay.
Devi Dasi, she's a UK devotee.
Okay.
Okay, so nobody has heard that story. Oh, that's strange. I'll send you a link. She's a disciple. She's a disciple of Bhakti Swami Maharaj. His Holiness Bhakti Swami Maharaj. There was a Prabhupada disciple, Raghava Pandit. His name was Brahmachari Raghava Pandit. He was in love with a girl who was a part of his congregation. Obviously, being a brahmachari, that was not appropriate, but then that's not the important part here. And one day in a car accident, he died. Surprisingly, he died the next day after Prabhupada gave him an initiation. He died. And then there's this Ratnavali Devi Dasi who was born, I think, 2 years after this person's death. She grew up in a Hindu family, Indian family in UK. And when she was around 19 or 20, or probably early 20s, she started having these vivid dreams where she would think that, she's in a car accident, and she would see herself in a Rath Yatra festival, which happened before her birth, 1973, in UK, in London. She would start seeing the London temple where Radha Londonishwara deities are there. And then all these dreams became too much for her. And then she went and consulted with her Guru Maharaj, His Holiness Bhakti Swami Maharaj. And slowly and steadily, she kept digging deeper and deeper what the meaning of these dreams were. And she realized that she was Raghava Pandit in her last life. And she found out that, and then she obviously, it's just too much to digest. If you could think, well, she became a devotee and then she chanted and then she realized, I missed that part out. So, but then it's too much to digest. But then she started following her dreams sincerely. Then she started consulting senior devotees, Prabhupada disciples, and they said, yes, there was a Raghava Pandit who died in a car accident. And then she found out more about him. And then she found out that all her dreams were true. She went to her house where Raghava Pandit's family used to live. His parents were dead, but then the neighbor was still alive. And then she told her a few things which she had seen in her dreams, and she confirmed that yes, you are right. And so Ratnavali Devi Dasi, she realized that she was Brahmachari Raghava Pandit in her last life. Now, another thing, she tracked down the lady whom Raghava Pandit liked before leaving his body. And to her surprise, Ratnavali Devi Dasi's features, her face and her bodily features were very similar to that lady whom Raghava Pandit had liked in her past life. And so this is not just blank theory that Krishna is putting out for us. It's hard for us to believe, but now going back to earlier when I said our confidence is built from experiences and realizations. So I'll send a link to it. None of you have heard about it. I'm surprised. But then I'll send you a link to that, the story. It's a detail. She has documented everything that she's gone through. Every single, I think it started when she was 17 or so. And she documented everything for, I think, till 2015 or something. Just read it thoroughly, and there'll be a test next time on it. But it's a very important story to read. It will kind of bolster your faith so much in what Krishna is saying when you see that it's actually happening within ISKCON. It's happening, and it's mercy of Krishna that Krishna brings Raghava Pandit back to ISKCON. And because he left his body probably thinking about that girl, he gets a girl's body. What more, because he was thinking, he got a body that was similar to that girl he was thinking about. The eye, the features, and how she looked. And there's so many other things that Ratnavali Devi Dasi has similar. She has scars on her body that match exactly with the marks on Raghava Pandit's body after after the car accident. His pelvis broke, and so Ratnavali Devi Dasi says that my pelvis is very weak. So there are many things that she found out and she's documented. So it's worth a story to read. It's a fact, actually, not a story. So you all have to read it. I'll send it to you. It's a long page. It's on Bhakti Swami Maharaj's page. I think Disciple page. So I'll send that out. But what I wanted to stress upon was this is true. This is all true. And once we start building our faith in this, the whole process becomes so much more enjoyable, realistic, and worth striving for. You'll be so happy to give up everything, because now you have realized that there is a goal at the end, that Krishna is not just throwing it up in the air, it actually exists. There is a place where Krishna lives, where he enjoys with his family members, where people are in love with him. And there is that love is not tainted with ulterior motives. It's not on a bodily level. It's pure love that we all are looking for. We're not looking for anything else except love. Okay. So I just wanted to spend a bit time on these two verses. They're very, very important. And again, Prabhupada brings out the Hare Krishna mantra here again. So Prabhupada is also just packing this purports up with this philosophy of chanting, that only chanting will take us across, right? We have to make our chanting as strong as possible. Right? So we should make chanting the main occupation in our life. And frankly, even though I'm saying it, I've not done it myself. So please, I don't think that I'm saying it after my personal realization, but I'm trying. And I know you all are trying sincerely, right? If we make chanting our main thrust in life, everything will fall into place. Even if you do it, if you're not perfectly doing it, but you're sincerely doing it, right? Then everything will become perfect. When you sit down to chant tomorrow morning, just beg for it, that, Krishna, please give me a taste for your holy name. And the harder you beg, the more hungry you are, the quicker it will come. Every day, prepare yourself for it. that, or today I will get a mercy from Krishna. So expect the result. Then everything will be perfect. So chanting, Prabhupada is again stressing on the fact that chanting is the most important aspect. That was 6. And from, I think from, where's my slides? My slide had some more details. Where's that? Let's go to the slide. So I talked about the acronym DEAD. So the first 4 are doubts and Krishna answering them. 5 to 8 is end of life. Let's see the details. What was it? Okay, remembrance of Krishna at the time of death. Okay. So we'll get into this section from, oh, we're already into this section. Yes. Okay. So let's come to this one. Tasmad sarveshu kaleshu mam anusprayudhyacha may arpito mano buddhir mam evashyasi ashramsaya. So Krishna is using this word, often. Samshaya. Samshaya means doubt. Asamshaya means beyond doubt. And here also Krishna used that verse, right? Is that here Krishna is that without fail. Then here he uses samshaya again. So the samshaya word Krishna used again and again. Somebody might ask, why is Krishna using it? Because people are so prone to doubt, especially in this Kali Yuga. We are in a big disadvantage, right? What's that verse? First canto, first chapter, verse 10. Yeah, prayanal alpayush kalo asmin yuge jana manda sumanda mateo manda bhagya hi upadrata. So I'm short-lived. Prayanal alpa ayush kalo asmin yuge jana manda, I'm not intelligent. Sumanda mateo, I'm not lucky. Manda bhagya, my lucky. I'm forgetting all the names, but there are 4 or 5 things says. Manda, Sumanda, Mateo, Manda bhagya, Upadrita, and I'm very disturbed. So Krishna has to again and again say the same thing. Don't doubt it. Don't doubt it. Please don't doubt it. Because he knows in Kali Yuga, people are very prone to doubts. Their mind is distracted. They have shorts and reels on Facebook and YouTube to get entangled in. And now I was reading today, Apple has come out with some AR vision, some goggles you wear, and you can have like 100-inch screen in front of you of some sort. This is going to go crazy from here onwards. It says going, but then it'll be worse. So Krishna has to unfortunately say again, please don't doubt me. Please don't doubt me. Please listen to me. Therefore, Arjun, you should always think of me in the form of Krishna, and at the same time carry out your prescribed duty of fighting. With your activities dedicated to me and your mind intelligence fixed on me, you will attain me without doubt. Once again, without doubt. Right? Because now, why does have to Krishna bring this verse again? He was giving a good logic, right? Just think about me. Because he hasn't moved away from his focus. He still wants Arjun to fight. Now, but then Arjun might be thinking, okay, this is good. I'll be bhava bhavita. I don't have to fight. I can just go in and meditate on Krishna peacefully. No, but Krishna is, no. You have to fight. This is my favorite verse. Tasmad sarveshu kaleshu mam anusmara yudhyacha. So what is Krishna saying? Tasmad sarveshu kaleshu. Tasmad means therefore. Therefore means what he has said in the past. Tasmad sarveshu kaleshu. All the time. Mam anusmara. Remember me. Yudhyacha. Fight. We all are not fighting. We are not Kshatriyas. We are not in a battlefield. But we all have our own fights to fight. Battles to fight. So Krishna is not asking you to give up those battles. Go ahead. Keep fighting. But then Krishna is saying, remember me. And he's saying that before. Mam anusmara, then yudhyacha. It's not like, you go for yudhya and then you remember me. No, first you remember me and then you. So what Krishna is saying, first you come to the state of bhava bhavita and then you go and fight. Premadham. And then you will come to Krishna. So my arpito, right? You'll come to me. So this concept of meditating on the self has been exploited a lot by self-styled life gurus and all those sorts of people, right? Many people spend a lot of time on positive affirmations and so on and so forth. They help, but they still fall short because we don't connect to Krishna. Because somebody can come and tell you, be fearless. You can do whatever you want to. You can probably move with that positive affirmation for a day or two, and then suddenly Big wave comes and your ship rocks, poof, and you're thrown off the boat. But if you have full faith in Krishna, if you are fully anchored in Krishna, then no wave can hit that boat of yours. So that's the one major difference between those self-help gurus out there who don't bring everything back to God, or this concept of a higher power, higher energy. All self-help books can become helpless at some point or the other, right? So yeah, so the purpose is to attain spiritual nature, and then you keep living our lives. Okay. So and Krishna is again saying, surely it will happen, right? So that, as I said, Anusmara comes first, and then comes Yuddhacha, right? Every morning, we should have a routine that help us first do Anusmara, not Yuddha. Don't wake up in the morning and start reading the news. Don't go into the Yuddha phase right away. There's so much of Yuddha happening outside you. Don't unnecessarily challenge your mind with that Yuddha right away. First, do Anusmara. Nowadays, it's such a sadistic lifestyle, people have. People wake up in the morning, the must thing in India, for example, people wake up, they have their newspaper and they have tea. The more ghastly news there are, the better the tea tastes. It's a sadistic lifestyle. That's like Yuddhacha, but we don't have to be Yuddhacha. We have to be Anusmara. First Anusmara, and then you can go to Yuddha. And the word Anu, Smaran, we know the meaning of the Smaran is remembering. Anu means to follow. So following the footsteps of Acharya. Learn from teachers how to think of Krishna appropriately in our current level of spiritual life. Whatever our level is. Don't try to overdo it either. But don't do Yuddhacha, first thing. Okay. So many things we can do first thing in the morning. Try to go to bed early as you can. Ayurveda says that we should be fast asleep by 10 o'clock, right? Then only you can wake up before sunrise. Right? That's a sattvic time of the day, right? Then read every day. take out 15-20 minutes to read Shastra, Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita. Read from these wisdom literatures. Do mantra meditation in the morning. Right? Have a list of personal affirmations that you can always revise and tell yourself. Right? Okay, this is what I want to do. Right? For example, you can tell yourself that when you wake up, first thing you chant Prabhupada's mantra, you chant, and then you have some prayer of your own. If you have some verses you like, you can recite them. So have a good start to a day, right? And eat good food and so on and so forth. So all these things, they help you come into that state of bhava bhavita. Don't go ahead and start reading the newspaper first thing in the morning. Okay, so let's see what Prabhupada is saying in the purport. That's a short purport. This instruction to Arjuna is very important for all men engaged in material activities. The Lord does not say that one should give up his prescribed duties or engagements. One can continue them, but at the same time think of Krishna by chanting Hare Krishna. This will free one from material contamination and engage the mind and intelligence in Krishna. By chanting Krishna's name, one will be transferred to the supreme planet Krishna Loka without a doubt, asamshaya. Abhyasa yoga yuktena chetasananyagamina paramam purusham divyam yati parthanu chintayan. He who meditates on me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his mind constantly engaged in remembering me, undeviated from the path, he, O Partha, is sure to reach me. In this verse, Lord Krishna stresses the importance of remembering him. One's memory of Krishna is revived by chanting the Mahamantra, Hare Krishna. So Prabhupada is again stressing, as I said, this chapter is very important because Prabhupada is again and again in every verse, he'll keep stressing on chanting. Chanting has to be our main focus in our day. Everything comes from chanting. All our knowledge, because everything is within me. Krishna just has to open up and give it to me. And how is Krishna going to do that? When I chant sincere rounds. That's the only way to it. So Krishna just explained in the last verse that how somebody might say, oh, somebody might say that, it might be difficult for somebody to remember all the time, right? So anu means to follow, but it also means consistently, constantly. So Krishna gives a verse in this verse how to do it, right? So he's saying that meditate on him, right? And Krishna will expand further on this. What does he mean by meditating? So meditating, right? Like, what was that? Sukhe dukhe bhulo nako, vadane hari naam bolo re. Naam gaye gaura madhur sware. It's a very good, I think it's Narottam Das Thakur's bhajan. So sukhe dukhe, always, whether you're in a misery, whether you're happy, always remember. In happiness you chant, in distress you chant. Everything can be an opportunity to chant. That's what we ISKCON people do, right? Someone is getting married, we chant. Somebody passes away, we chant. Somebody's birthday, we chant. Every occasion is surcharged with chanting for us. Right? And Krishna is saying, abhyasa yoga yuktena. So abhyasa yoga yuktena means become yukta, engaged in abhyas yoga. What is abhyas? Abhyas is sadhana bhakti that we all are doing. Right? So abhyas refers to engaging in positive practices. Positive practices we all have read in the Nectar of Instruction, right? Second verse and third verse, right? Yeah, so those two, and second, third, and fourth actually. So those verses, how to do that abhyasa that Krishna is talking about. Right? Fix mind in things that help us remember of Krishna. But on the other hand, abhyasa also means don't engage in things that take your remembrance away from Krishna. That's also abhyasa, right? Utsaha nishya dhairya tattad karma pravartanat sangatyaga shato vritti sadvir bhaktir prasidyati. That's the third verse of Nectar of Instruction. We have confidence, determination, so on and so forth. Okay. So that's the process of continuous remembrance, as Krishna is saying to us. So let's see what the Prabhupada is saying. This was something Prabhupada said. The mind is fickle, and therefore it is necessary to engage the mind by force to think of Krishna. By force, right? Prabhupada is saying this because our mind is fickle, right? It is necessary to engage the mind by force, right? I have met so many people who say, oh, I'm always thinking of Krishna in my mind. I'm always chanting. They say, why are you chanting on these beads? Why are you counting your rounds? Why so many rules and regulations? I chant the whole time. I'm fully Krishna conscious. Why are you, they even say, why are you showing off with your bead bag and so on? No. If you notice, our acharyas have taught us to count everything because our mind is fickle. Today it will be in a mood to do chanting. You might be chanting the whole day. Tomorrow it is no mood. You might not chant for the rest of the week probably. Sat Goswami Ashtakam says, Sankhya Purvaka Nama Gani Natibhi Kalavasini Kritau. Say Sankhya Purvaka. So the word Sankhya Purvaka means in a scheduled measurement. The 6 Goswamis, they would count how many times the holy name they were chanting and how many times they were bowing down to every other devotees. Right? And what is the outcome of that? Nidrahara Vihara Adikau Vijitau. Yes. So the Nidra and Ahara, you're able to conquer over eating and sleeping. They counted everything. So that's why Prabhupada is saying mind is fickle. That's why we count everything. I'll take a pause here. Any thoughts anybody has? Because Krishna is going to shift a gear there. Any thoughts, comments, anything on your mind?
Haribol?
Yes, Prabhu. Haribol.
One thing, as soon as you were saying this, I kept saying, well, doubting. And then I thought, oh, it's almost, you need to clarify this for me, but I see that it's like, to me, I have faith in what Krishna says. I mean, it's not just some type of eulogy that's going down the road, but I really have faith in what he says. So I just take his words to the bank. Is that the same as not doubting? Or is there another angle or perspective that this doubting is encompassing?
So Prabhu, doubt is not bad. Bhagavatam tells us that doubting is a sign of intelligence actually. But we cannot doubt ad infinitum, endlessly. Then we'll not make any progress. We keep doubting. When we come to a point where all our questions have answered, then we just take that and meditate on it. So that's what doubting means, questioning everything. Why do you need bhakti? I am happy in my life. I don't need to do all this. Why are you chanting like this? Why are you, counting your rounds? The doubts can be unlimited. But as you mentioned it and you described it, that's being doubtless. Yes. Having that faith that whatever Krishna is saying is correct and all this will come to pass if I continue my practice, then that is being beyond doubt. Yes, Prabhu, you can say it that way.
Yep. This is very nice, though. I mean, I think that the 6 Goswamis is very, very important. They're counting. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was always counting. It also shows the resolution of your conviction.
Yeah.
And like you say, well, why do you need that? Well, because that fickle mind, it can sneak attack at any time. That fickle, it's a dangerous quality.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really nice. Thank you. Mind
has, what's that? In the 11th canto, the 23rd chapter is the story of Avanti Brahman. And there is a verse where Krishna is talking to Uddhav there in that chapter. And he's telling the story of Avanti Brahman. And Krishna says that this mind has fearsome godlike powers. And that phrase just has stuck in my brain, that the mind has fearsome godlike powers. So yes, and it can only be controlled by bhakti. No other yoga form can control the mind successfully. Okay. Any more thoughts, anyone?
Krishna
Can't take that line.
Oh, go ahead. Okay, I'll speak later.
No. One thing that he just said, you said it so fast, but we can't let that go. He said, only bhakti can do this. Only bhakti. This whole science is so important. Only bhakti, devotional service. That's it.
That's it.
I mean,
Yes.
when you say that, you say it quickly, but no, that's in every page, everywhere. We have to have that cemented and tattooed and really inside us, imbibe that faith with beyond a doubt that bhakti is the only way.
Yes.
And it's all encompassing too. But when he uses that word, or he uses Krishna consciousness, that means bhakti. That means devotional service. They're all synonymous, and so you can't take these words lightly. As soon as you say it, oh, that should bring a light, that should zap you with a piece of electricity. Appreciate that point, and increase your heart feelings. That's all. When you said it, you hit me, you zapped me, and we just almost went to another point. But Mataji, I didn't mean to cut you off, but he zapped me, so I just had to explain that. Sorry about that.
Yeah, it's only bhakti. Yes, Mataji, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. I think today's lecture was so very encouraging. Actually, you gave the story of Ratna Kumari, how after death she could get those dreams. So it's very, very convincing that Krishna is there in whatever Prabhupada says is accurate and it comes true. And even we experience this in our own life. And that reminds also me of the last week class that you gave, and you gave a very beautiful point. You said that if we accept our unique position as we are all created unique, there will be no cause for the envy. And when if the envy is not there, then all the problems really the world really gets solved. So those were the beautiful things I reminded. And of course, the chanting and counting is definitely very, very important. And as we do it, we really see that change, that progress in ourselves and mind, of course, is a very notorious thing. Actually, we are all dictated by the mind, actually. The soul still is sleeping, but yes, we have the mantra to get it awakened. Thank you very much for bringing that about.
Thank you. Yes, Mataji. And as you were speaking, I was thinking about, just one second, sorry, Mataji, is that I was thinking about the doubt concept that we just discussed. sometimes we even doubt Prabhupada. Forget Krishna. Krishna, I'm always doubtful about Krishna. I don't have any faith on him. But I even doubt Prabhupada. You know, a person who has walked this earth, there are people who have actually met him. We have books about him. But we used to doubt Prabhupada also. And there's so many people who go around saying, oh, Prabhupada didn't give us, you know, the Madhurya Ras and all that. And some people come and say, oh, no, Prabhupada is, you know, oh, he has made it very easy for you, 16 rounds. You know, we should not doubt Prabhupada also. Because what Prabhupada has given us, nobody in the entire history of this world has ever done that. So doubting about Krishna is way beyond. But you know, we should not even doubt Krishna's devotees. And I know people who do that. You know, I try my best not to doubt Prabhupada ever, and you know, Krishna mercy, hope stay there. But we even doubt Prabhupada also. And we think, oh, no, I need to read some more esoteric books because Prabhupada didn't teach me this. Prabhupada gave us everything. All we need to do is just unpack it. Prabhupada gave us everything. So yes, sorry, I just wanted to add that. Yes, Madhuri, please go ahead.
Sorry, Prabhu. So Prabhu, in 8.6, you shared that the Lord doesn't give the results of bhakti only at the end of the life. So I was trying to like fully understand that.
No, I didn't say that that's for everybody, Mata. It's not for everybody. Sometimes
okay.
sometimes Krishna does that. I'll give you a very live example. Pre-COVID, there was a devotee living in this area where I'm living, Germantown area. And I'm not sure if you know Lakshmivan Prabhu. He's a Prabhupada disciple. He teaches a lot of instruments. So I was learning mridanga from him at that time. And he just told me one day that, you know, hey, Premda, you know, there's this devotee. Well, he was not even a devotee. He was not initiated or anything, this other person that we're referring to. But he was very old, like 75 or so. And his body was fully in pain because of cancer that he had. And he was about to leave his body. So, and somehow he used to come to the DC temple. So that's how Lakshmivan Prabhu had a fleeting acquaintance. So Prabhuji, Lakshman Prabhu asked me, Premdam, can you please assist me in taking care of this person, you know, cook prasadam for him, and somebody can go and sit with him. His family was not with him. He was divorced. And so I said, yes, why not? You know, I talked to some other devotees. We got some prasadam arranged for him. And I used to go and sit with him, sometimes read to him, chant with him. And then when I got to talk to him, because I think it was just a period of 10-15 days that I was associating with him. And by the last 2 days, he was not speaking at all. He was in kind of a semi-asleep state. And he was, but then the reason I bring that up is he didn't do any bhakti. Like practically all he used to do is like probably some Sundays he would come and help in the temple, some service. And he would do chanting here and there. He would read books, like not a sincere, serious practitioner. But imagine the benefit Krishna gave him for that. He's having devotees sitting with him and chanting with him 24/7. He has devotees cooking prasadam for him all the time, 3 times a day. They were, you know, devotees bringing him, you know, tilak to put on. There was one devotee from the DC temple, I think, what's his name? Nanda Kumar Prabhu, I think he gave him one of those Prabhupada radios that was constantly playing Prabhupada's kirtan. They were Prabhupada's posters around his room, Krishna's posters. So, and then, you know, Lakshmivan Prabhu, who's a Prabhupada disciple, such a senior, serious devotee, was there with him to serve him. You know? So what I meant when I said that last time, some people don't see results throughout their lives, but Krishna concentrates everything and gives in the last moment. And this example was a realization for me, a true first hands-on experience for me when I saw that this person didn't even do serious bhakti. But Krishna concentrated everything, and within the last 10 days of his life, he has everything. Devotees singing for him, bringing prasadam for him, sitting there, reading Bhagavatam to him, chanting with him, and, you know, probably putting tilak on him, putting tulsi mala around his neck and everything. So just imagine what a birth he might have, but what a next birth he might have. He left his body listening to kirtan, you know, chanting. I was there with him when he left his body, you know, I think it was like 2 in the morning, and I was there, I was sitting and I was chanting with him. His whole family was there. So that's what I meant, Mataji.
Okay, Prabhu. That I guess I didn't hear the full part. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So because I have had this personal experience firsthand, so that's why I could relate to this statement which I just made to you.
Yeah, so I know, because I was thinking, devotees sometimes we feel the Lord's reciprocation. So yeah, I was confused.
Yeah.
So thank you, Prabhu. That explains it.
Yeah, because sometimes, Krishna also has to be careful of his other children who are not interested in coming to him. If devotees start getting everything, then the others will get demoralized. They want to practice Ashtanga yoga. Somebody wants to practice Jnana yoga. And then they will say, oh my God, these devotees get everything. What's the use of? I'm not going to follow any path. Let me go back and enjoy. Krishna says, no. Devotees understand him. They are his own person. They're his loved ones. So even if he doesn't give to them, they will understand. But the other one who are not connected to Krishna directly, they might not understand. So Krishna is taking care of them also. Sometimes so Krishna doesn't give everything to devotees. So
Yes, Prabhu. So yeah, in this verse I was reading, it's not because of us, it's because of who Krishna is, his kindness. So yeah,
his
it
kindness.
makes perfect sense, Prabhu.
Yeah, his kindness. Okay, any more? Or we can move forward. No, nothing. Okay. So now the 9th verse onwards, Krishna is going to elaborate upon how to meditate upon him, because the 8th verse said, meditates upon me. What was that? Abhyasa yoga chetasya nagamina. Right? So abhyasa yuktena. So the yukta word was there, means meditation. So Krishna is going to explain that in the next few verses. Kavim Puranam Manushashitaram Anor Aniyamsham Anusmaredyaha Sarvasya Dhataram Achintya Rupam Aditya Varnam Tamasa Parastat. One should meditate upon the Supreme Person as the one who knows everything, as he who is the oldest, who is the controller, who is smaller than the smallest, who is the maintainer of everything, who is beyond all material conception, who is inconceivable, and who is always a person. He is luminous like the sun, and he is transcendental beyond this material nature. Prabhupada immediately starts with the concept that Krishna is not impersonal, right? Why? Because there's so many things being told about him. So he's not. One cannot meditate on something impersonal or void. That is very difficult. You cannot meditate on something that's impersonal and void. When you meditate on something impersonal and void, it actually fills your heart up with envy. It hardens your heart. We were distributing books this Sunday at what was that? The Patel brothers in Kirtansville. I met a Christian. I was trying to give him a Bhagavad Gita. I didn't know he was a practicing Christian or like those Jehovah Witness kind of a guy. He came to me with a smiling face, and I thought, oh, he seems receptive. I showed him a Bhagavad Gita, and what he did was he right away started blaspheming, and he started criticizing me. Why do you believe in these idols? Isn't that so stupid? No, that was his actual word. Isn't that so stupid? And I was like, I appreciate your process. I consider Jesus as a son of God. I have my own way. So I was just trying to convince to him that, hey, we both are trying to figure out the same thing. But he was outright kicking me left and right. And then after a minute or so, I just told him that, I don't think this is the right place to discuss this. And I let him go politely. But that's what happens when you don't have anything to focus upon. And even these impersonal people like, even who practice in Christianity, they say they don't believe in a form in a God, but they also believe in a form. They have a cross on which Jesus Christ, they all wear a cross. Cross is a form. Yes, Jesus Christ. Some people even have a cross with Jesus Christ on it. So that's a form. Many of the churches I have seen have Mother Mary in there, the form in the Mother Mary and Jesus Christ. So it's practically, you cannot meditate on something which is impersonal or void. It's very difficult. And it hardens the heart. I just want to highlight that. So Krishna is saying a few things here that, so Kavim, one who knows everything, right? But today, nowadays, there are so many Kavis that become famous. They present philosophical and practical wisdom. But then Lord Krishna is the best of all Kavis, one who knows everything. Purana means he's the oldest personality. Anushashitaram, one who ensures that everyone is kept in the position and discipline. Anushashan, right? We know the word Anushashan. So he lovingly, like a teacher at school and a parent at home, out of love, he controls the disciples, the wayward living entities, and brings them back. Right? Aniyamsham, he's smallest than the smallest. Right? Nowadays, there is a lot of discussion around Higgs boson. Right? What is that? The God particle, so-called God particle. which is a practical misnomer, God particle. But so then there's this quark theory and so much being discussed around. But Krishna says, I'm even more subtle than that. Right? Sarvasya dhataram. I'm the maintainer of everything. Right? Achinta rupam. Achinta rupa means I have an inconceivable form. It's not perceivable by material senses. Aditya Varanam, he is luminous like the sun. And Tamasa Parashtat, he is transcendental to darkness. So there is no darkness where Krishna is. I create darkness when I turn away from Krishna. So, so till this verse, talked about remembering Krishna at the time of death and throughout life. From this verse onwards, there will be a discussion of Yoga Mishra Bhakti. So there's still Bhakti, but it mixed with yoga practices, Ashtanga Yoga. Right? But Prabhupada always will bring us back again to Bhakti, unalloyed Bhakti, Avyabhicharini Bhakti. I think I brought out this story, right? When how did Prabhupada come up with the word unalloyed devotion? Once when his first temple was opened, and then he took his disciples to Boston Harbor, and he took them to a place, a steel manufacturing place there, which had the word alloy in it. And Prabhupada said, here I picked up the word alloy, and I converted it to unalloyed. And then we have that phrase, unalloyed devotion. So alloy means that you mix another metal into something. Right? So that's what this Krishna is going to tell us from here onwards, that bhakti can be mixed with other things. Typically, we know there are three motives: karma, jnana, and yoga. So there can be karma mishra bhakti, there can be jnana mishra bhakti, there can be yoga mishra bhakti. So karma mishra bhakti means we do bhakti, but we want to enjoy the fruits of our work. Jnana mishra bhakti means I want to cultivate knowledge even while I'm doing my devotional service. Yoga mishra means I want to attain some mystic siddhis, or so on and so forth. So, so Krishna is giving us these ways by which we can meditate upon him. Let's see anything more on this purport now. Okay, let's go 10. Kale manasa chalena bhaktya yukto yog balena chaiva bhruvor madhe pranamaveshya samyak satam param purusham upayati divyam. So yog balena is a very important verse here. Power, by the power of mystic yoga balena. One who at the time of death fixes his life air between the eyebrows, and by the strength of yoga, with an undeviating mind, engages himself in remembering the Supreme Lord, full devotion, will certainly attain to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Right? So again, Krishna is bringing out the word eva, certainly. Samshaya, eva. Krishna again stressing, have faith in me. Whatever I'm saying is correct. Just follow it. Right? So even though Krishna is giving us all these processes, I just want to bring out this point, it doesn't mean those processes are for me. You will find so many other forms of yoga in Bhagavad Gita, because this book is for all categories of people. Karma, jnana, yoga, everybody. Why? Again, going back to Krishna's loving nature. He doesn't want to leave anybody out. We're not like, oh, either you come to me or you go to hell, or you rot in hell. No, Krishna is not that way. Right? But we as devotees should know that Krishna is teaching about bhakti. And we see that in towards the end of every chapter, Krishna will bring us back to bhakti. Right? 7th chapter, 6th chapter, all those chapters. Everybody, if you notice towards the end of the chapter, Krishna will again bring us back to bhakti. Right? So, then this is okay. So yeah, so this is we have read this this and probably the following which verse is this? 10. So I think up to 13 or 14, Krishna is going to speak something similar to what we read in the 6th chapter, because this is also Ashtanga Yoga in a much concised form, but this is Ashtanga Yoga mixed with Bhakti. So this is Yoga Mishra Bhakti, which Krishna is talking about. Fixing the eyes in between the eyebrows, and all this is talking about the what was that? The fixed eyebrows mean like what you have that chakra, right? The Kundalini Yoga. So we have the what was that? Agya Chakra here. So starting all the way from Mooladhara, which is at the end of our spinal cord, Mooladhara, Swadhisthana, Manipura. Manipura, I think, Manipura is here at our chest, and then Anahata at our heart, and then throat is Vishuddha, and then Agya, and then Sahasra, which is on the forehead. So Krishna is saying that focusing between here, eyebrows, so you're focusing on the Agya chakra, and then you can leave your body at your choice. Right? But then the important part here is, who is that? Bhaktya yukto. It has to be bhakta yukto. If I just focus my, fix my life here between my eyebrows, do some yoga, thinking I'll go back to God, no, it won't happen. Bhaktya has to be there. That is the most important part, not the yoga part. It's the bhaktya part that is more important, right? So there are many examples of people who have practiced this yoga. There is Bhīṣṭa-dohaṁ is a good example. He waited for Uttarayana, and then when everything became favorable, then he left his body. And later on in this chapter, Krishna will talk about Uttarayana, Dakshinayana, and all the effects of those on our journey of a soul. But that's not the case for devotees. Devotees, they depend on Krishna, and then Krishna takes them back home, right? So what Bhīṣṭa-dohaṁ did is being given in this verse. He focused his eyes, and then left his body, right? So yes, yeah. But in bhakti also we sometimes do yoga. It's not like it's banned to do yoga forms. There are some yama. We talked about those steps, right? Yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, dhyana, dharana, pratyahara, and samadhi. We talked about that ladder. So we also do some yama niyama, right? Ahimsa, satyam, tapaha, shaucham. We also do all that. So it's not like devotees don't do yoga. So we're not averse to it. We are okay with it. But the important part is bhaktya yukto. We have to have bhakti in the process. There's another example of King Prithu. If somebody wants to read, there's the 23rd chapter of the 4th canto. You can go and read. And there all these details are given. What Prithu Maharaj did, focusing all on his chakras and sitting posture and all that. So, but then it's explained in that chapter that doesn't mean that that's needed. He just knew it and he used it. If you have an umbrella, why not use it if it's raining? Nobody's going to stop you from that. So but that doesn't mean King Prithu was a yogi. No, he was a bhakta. But there's no harm in using if you know yoga. So we use everything for Krishna's service, right? And by yoga, you can raise the kundalini to the topmost chakra, and then there's the Brahma, what's that called? Brahmarandhara, from which then you can go to whatever destination you want. But yeah, that's the most important ingredient is bhakti. Then you leave your body. One cannot suddenly remember the Supreme Lord at death. One must have practiced some yoga system, especially the system of bhakti yoga. Since one's mind at death is very disturbed, one should practice transcendence through yoga during one's life. 11. Persons who are learned in the Vedas, who utter Omkara, and who are great sages in the renounced order, enter into Brahman. Desiring such perfection, one practices celibacy. I shall now explain to you this process by which one may attain salvation. This is 11th verse that we are doing. Yes. So, yeah. So, Krishna is talking about Om here, Omkara, right? The word Omkara. So he's bringing that. Some people don't prefer chanting Hare Krishna, which is a direct method of connecting with Krishna. But then Omkar is also an indirect way. And we talked about it earlier in the last chapter, right? That how Pranava Sarva Vedeshu Sabdakhe Paurusham Nishu. Krishna says this in the 7th chapter, right? Pranava is Om. So the word Om, as we know, the A part represents Krishna, right? Aksharam Ekaro Asmi. Krishna is the A alphabet. Then U of the Om indicates Radharani, the pleasure potency of Krishna. And Ma, Om, the Ma part indicates the living entities Jiva. So all of that is included in Om. But then people prefer to not directly chant Krishna's name. So Krishna is saying, okay, you want to go the other route? That's okay. So people at Omkara, they more like to read Vedas. They can then move forward. Anything here? Throughout the world, there are many institutions for different departments of knowledge, but there is no recognized institution where students can be educated in the brahmachari principles. Unless one practices celibacy, advancement in spiritual life is very difficult. Yes. Grasthas, the word celibacy is also has a deep meaning. Celibacy is not complete abstinence. For brahmacharis and sannyasis, there's complete abstinence. But for grasthas, it even becomes more difficult. There's a controlled abstinence. We want to bring Krishna conscious children into this world. So don't consider that if Prabhupada is saying celibacy, then oh my God, oh we are grasthas, we have children, oh then we are not we're not going to make any advancement. No, for grasthas, celibacy means that we only use our that Krishna, as Krishna says, right? Dharma viruddha bhuteshu kamosmi bhartarshava. That was in the 7th chapter, which is favorable to dharma. I am that sex life, Krishna is saying. So when devotees, when grasthas, they have children, but with the thought that they want to bring Krishna conscious children to the world, then that's also considered as celibacy. That's celibacy in grasthashram. Now here Krishna will go into more details of yoga practices, but as I mentioned, we have also read this in the 6th chapter. The yogic situation is that of detachment from all sensual engagements, closing all the doors of the senses and fixing the mind on the heart and the life air at the top of the head. One establishes himself in yoga. So now Krishna has given the entire Ashtanga yoga in here. So he's talking about detachment from sensual engagement. This is yama niyama, right? Closing the doors of the senses, right? So again, that was pranayam, right? Dhyana, withdrawal of senses. Fixing the mind on the heart, that's dharana, right? And the life air at the top of the head is against, pratyahara. And then establishing himself yoga is samadhi. So Krishna is practically given the whole Ashtanga yoga in this one verse. But again, Prabhupada, as usual, brings us back to bhakti. Yes, Shalini.
Prabhuji, in the 6th chapter, right, Krishna established, right, by saying that yogi nam api sarve sam vadgatinantaratmana shraddhavan vastevema samyukta. So Prabhuji, he already established, right, bhakti yoga is the Shrestha yoga. And we already have, so why we are getting Ashtanga yoga back when we already have that clarity, the karmis, the jnani, yogis and the bhaktas, and yoga is the connection of the consciousness to the God. We already have that base set up. So now why getting Ashtanga yoga back into the picture?
Yeah, because as I said, because this book is for all categories of people, it's not just for devotees. But Krishna is establishing devotional practices. And what we read in the 6th chapter, Krishna gives a detailed explanation of yoga practices. Here he's explaining us yoga mishra bhakti. So these people, I gave you the example of Bhishma-dev. So Bhishma-dev was not a pure yogi. He was a yoga mishra bhakta. He was also doing devotional service. So here Krishna is now going to get into more details, because Arjun can ask this question. Okay, I'm not a yoga practitioner, but then I'm also doing bhakti, but I'm doing mixed bhakti, right? So I also want a kingdom. I want to take care of family, which is more like karma mishra bhakti. So Krishna is now giving more nuances of that yoga aspect here. That it's not that people are doing purely yoga bhakti. For them, for sure, that's no use. Because as the quoted 634, as you quoted, right? Yogina api sarvesham madgatinantar. So who thinks of me is the perfect yogi. So that Krishna has already established. But there could be people who are somewhere in between. They're also doing bhakti, but then they're also doing yoga. What about them? That's why it's being brought up here. It's not purely yoga practice. It's a mixture. That is why Krishna has to explain that detail also.
But Prabhuji, we already talked about it in the preceding chapters, right? Because I know everybody is not into bhakti yoga. So Krishna was merciful in that we explained all like Ashtanga yoga, the Jnana yoga and everything, so that the people who are not in the platform of bhakti, at least they, through that process, they can ultimately come to the bhakti, because everything is a process, right? So that is all discussed. So I'm a little bit perplexed why, when we are clear to this stage, like which is the supreme yoga, what is the ultimate goal of humankind, all that stuff we have understood now, that foundation is established, Now, again, why going back and confusing a little bit pose with all that Ashtanga yoga and all that stuff? So,
Well, so as I said, this is not purely Ashtanga yoga, right? This is Ashtanga yoga Mishra Bhakti that Krishna is establishing. And it's not necessarily, he's not necessarily talking about Ashtanga yoga. He's not going into details of those. What he's trying to explain, Krishna, is that how do you attain me at the last moment? So he's talking it from that focus, that, you know, yoga practitioners who do all these sort of things, if they bring bhakti also into it, bhakta yukto, then they can also attain me. So it's that discussion of yoga was to just explain about a yoga practice. Here, the goal is not to discuss about the yoga practice. The goal here is to tell that how people who are doing this yoga practice, if they bring bhakti into it, they can also attain me. So there's a slight nuance there.
Okay, Prabhu.
And as I said, I know as devotees, we do get perplexed. Why is Krishna talking about this again and again? But you have to also understand, as I said, this is meant for all people in this world. There might be people who are, who are doing yoga mishra bhakti, and Krishna doesn't want to leave them either. There are people who are purely Ashtanga yogis. So Krishna has talked about them in detail because Ashtanga yoga is one of the limbs of yoga practice. But then there are people who are doing bhakti also, and they are doing some other aspect also. So Krishna has to bring them also into the fold. So he has to give those details. And you will be surprised. In the 11th chapter, we will come. Krishna is going to talk about his universal form for the entire 55 verses of that chapter. Now you might say, why is Krishna talking about his universal form? Because there are people who believe in that universal form. So Krishna has to tell them also, this universal form is also me. Please remember that. So you will see that across the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna is going to try to cover every possible faction in this world into the fold of Bhagavad Gita.
Got it, Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
Yeah, he has to go all over the place. But that is why Prabhupada's purports are so valuable, because Prabhupada gives us the essence everywhere, bhakti. But Krishna cannot do that because Krishna has to take care of everybody. Okay. I hope I was able to answer your doubt.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you very much.
Okay, so we did what we do. Okay, yes, we did 12. So let's do 13 and we can wrap up that. So as I mentioned, 12 is a kind of a very concise summary of the entire Ashtanga Yoga process. Coming to the 13th, again, where was that verse? After being situated in this yoga practice and vibrating the sacred syllable Om, the supreme combination of letters, if one thinks of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and quits his body, he will certainly reach the spiritual planets. So once again, yoga practice. Yes, we have already talked about yoga practice in the 6th chapter. We have talked about the sacred syllable Om also in the 7th chapter. But what was missing there in the yogi who was being talked about in the 6th chapter was that he was not bhakta yukto. That is why Krishna had to very specifically say, oh yes, you do Ashtanga yoga, that's fine, but yogi na api sarvesham madgatena antaratmana. That for me, that yogi is perfect who's thinking about me. But here now he's talking about, yes, you're doing yoga practice, but you're also thinking about me, right? So understand there is a mixture there. It's a mishra bhakti. So those people are also will reach Krishna. So Krishna is slowly and steadily bringing everybody into his fold. Some people might get dejected. Oh my God, Krishna is saying Ashtanga yoga is useless. Think me. No, Krishna is not saying that. Here he's saying, okay, you're doing Ashtanga yoga. That's fine. But can you just bring me into the picture also? Then everything will become perfect. So he's trying to come to a middle ground for Ashtanga yogis here. So this is the 13th verse, right? And the importance of chanting Om is stressed here, right? For yoga mishra bhaktas, right? And Krishna says Om is the sound representation, as we all say, right? Prabhupada has taught us that Krishna is the Om is also an indirect way of attaining Krishna. So the important is Viharana Ma Manusram, that chanting Om is to remember Krishna. If we chant Om and don't remember Krishna, that Om will not bring much benefit to us. So I already mentioned that how Om has 3 parts to it: Krishna, Radha, and the Jiva. Right? So that's to understand, right? So Om is just the call of the Jiva to Radharani to engage in Krishna's service. And this is exactly what we do when we chant Hare Krishna mantra. That's the connection between Om and Hare Krishna. But then impersonalists don't like to chant Krishna's name. So Krishna has to give them a easier thing. Okay, you chant Om, right? So that's it. So, but what are they actually chanting is Krishna's name. They are mentioning Krishna indirectly through sound of Om. There are two kinds of name that Krishna has, right? One is Mukhya Naam. So Mukhya Naam are like his Yashodanandan, Radha Madhav, Radha Damodar. Those are his main names, primary names. But then he also has some secondary names, which are I forgot what they call. I forgot what's the other words called. But the secondary name are like Parmeshwara, Ishwara. Those are the secondary names, right? So similarly, the Om is a secondary name, right? Like for example, you can call somebody the Prime Minister, Mr. Prime Minister, or you can call him Naru Bhai. In India, Narendra Modi is the Prime Minister. So there's a difference there. So Krishna again, he's saying that yes, there are people who don't like to chant my name directly, but if they chant my name, understanding that Om is also me, do whatever yoga practice you're doing, just bring me into your consciousness, then you will also certainly reach the spiritual planet. Okay, I'll stop there because from 14th verse, Krishna is going to start talking about bhakti, Shuddha Bhakti. This is one of the important verses of Bhagavad Gita. We are at 8:30. Anything last moment anybody has in their mind?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, I do have a question.
Yes, Prabhu, please.
Prabhu, in 8.4, in the purport, Prabhupada is advising that the neophyte should contemplate on the universal form. Can you explain why Prabhupada is recommending this?
You said 4th verse. Let me go to the verse.
Yes, Prabhu.
If anybody wants to leave, please feel free to leave the discussion. If you want to stay, you're more than welcome. But yeah, we're already over time, so please feel free to leave if you want to. So let me go to the 4th verse. You're saying, what was that? What you're pointing out, Prabhu, in the 4th verse?
8.4, Prabhupada is recommending that the neophyte should contemplate on the universal form.
Oh, I think I moved way further. Chapter 8. 4th verse. Third. Okay, where is that? Do you remember which part of the purport it is in? Beginning, end, towards
the end, Prabhu.
Towards the end. The neophyte is advised to contemplate the universal form or Virat Purusha, whose legs are considered to the lower planets, whose eyes are considered sun and whose head. Okay. Yeah. So this is because, and if you just read let's read a few sentences before that. Prabhupada is talking about that there are different manifestations of Krishna. One of them is the super soul, which he's talking about. The function of all these different manifestations of the Supreme Lord automatically become clarified for the pure Krishna conscious devotee engaged in transcendental service to the Lord. So for a pure devotee, he has fully understood what the Brahman platform is, the universality of Krishna. He has understood that Krishna is also sitting in his heart as the Lord, and then Krishna is also Bhagavan. So that's a pure devotee stand. Arjuna has asked Krishna, what is Adidevata? So he's asking, what is the gigantic universal form of the Lord? So Prabhupada is saying that universal form, the purpose of that universal form to exist is primarily for those people who cannot even go to the aspect of understanding that Krishna is sitting in your heart. So Krishna makes it, or Shastras make it very easy for them, saying that, okay, can you just imagine that this whole creation is Krishna's body? Okay. And there is one of the photographs. When I meet you, I'll show you. I don't think it's in the yellow Bhagavad Gita. It was in the earlier version. There is a person running, and that person is supposedly the universal form, and his feet are the planets, and so on and so forth. I forgot the details, but so that's the universal form. For us to meditate on this, that this creation is Krishna himself. This creation is the gigantic universal form, I can meditate on it because I can see these elements around me. That's for a neophyte. So for a neophyte, to make it very easy for that person to approach God, he can meditate on that universal form of God. And he's advised because a neophyte cannot directly meditate on the super soul or even the Bhagwan platform. So for them to make it easy, you can meditate on this concept of universal form of Krishna, so that you don't get demotivated in life. That's why Prabhupada is saying, that's why they're advised to meditate on it. Otherwise, a neophyte, if neither the neophyte has any taste, neither does he have any concept of Paramatma or Bhagavan, so he will surely fall off the track because he will not get any realization or connection there. So Prabhupada is saying, then at least focus on the universal form, and then as you will continue your bhakti process, then everything will become realized to you. That's what it means, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu. I was a little, I guess, confused because from the previous, I believe, question, you spoke on the universal form, and why? I guess we shouldn't. I guess now that we're becoming more familiar with Krishna consciousness, but I wanted to, I guess someone in a neophyte that was wondering why Prabhupada was recommending that. But thank you for explaining.
Yeah, Shastras are all inclusive. They have something for everybody. If I am the dumbest person on this earth, I also can take up bhakti, but I start with the neophyte level. Oh, this world is also Krishna, this mountain is also Krishna, trees are also Krishna. So I start there. That's why Prabhupada is saying it's advice for a neophyte.